I love it when you wear blue, Gabe. I mean, I love you in anything, but you wore blue that first time I saw you, so anytime I see you in blue, it reminds me of how I felt at that moment. How I never really knew what being on a podcast was until I saw you. You unlocked something inside me that day. Something I didn't even realize was there, and right then I knew that nothing in my life was ever going to be the same. In that moment, I was transformed permanently. You did that. Dramatic pause.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
You can't handle the truth. King Kong ain't got shit on me. I am the third revelation.
I am so much crazier than you.
I am the one who knocks.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Best thing, big boy, huh? That's bright.
Everybody on? Good. Great. Grand. Wonderful.
Welcome to Facing Off, a podcast where we share our opinions about two movies we find to be similar by comparing, contrasting, and rating them. I'm your potentially insane host, Gabe, and this is my duly appointed federal marshal, Nick.
Yeah.
What's up, Nick?
Hey, man.
You want to introduce our special guest that we have on today?
This is our very special and absolutely unsane guest, Jimmy.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
I'm special and unsane.
Jimmy's been our friend for a long time, and
Yeah.
he likes to talk about movies, too.
Yeah, I'll talk
Yeah,
about it.
he's one of my favorite movie friends. We would watch movies all the time when we lived together, and we're glad to have you on, man. You
Welcome to
Thanks
my
for-
kitchen.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself? We're all interested in
Sure.
you. You're pretty interesting, man.
Hey, man. I'm a PhD student at the University of Virginia. That's pretty much most of my life.
And you went to fucking Harvard,
I
dude.
fucking went to Harvard.
Yeah,
All of the
Wow.
Boston themes for these movies.
that's true.
We're all drinking clam chowder.
Yep.
Yep.
Drinking.
We're drinking clam
Drinking clam
chowder.
chowder, just chugging chowder.
Just
And
like
knock
the
it back some
Bostonians.
Jamesons.
Some Jameson's and clam
That's
chowder.
life in Boston.
Everyone knows real Bostonians drink their clam chowder.
Well, cool, man. We're glad to have you on the podcast.
Yeah,
Welcome
baby.
to your first podcast, the first of many.
Oh, so many?
Every time you come here, you're welcome on. And no times at any
And
other
no
time.
other times.
Yeah.
You can come. You can only come to my kitchen if you're going to record a podcast. In it.
Oh, good.
Yep, true.
Not a euphemism. We're in my kitchen.
We are actually in Nick's
We're in
kitchen.
the
His
kitchen.
beautiful new kitchen. I
If
love
you
it.
hear a hum, that's not a refrigerator.
Yeah, that's
It's our
that's
tummies because we're
Jimmy's tummy.
hungry.
Yeah, we are.
We spent all day watching movies for you. So I hope you like it, listener.
Before we get into these,
Singular listener.
You're one listener. Hey,
Aaron.
hey, listener.
Aaron, if you're listening, we
Hey,
miss
Garen,
you.
Garen.
Stop listening.
Yeah, stop.
Get off the phone right
You're
now.
a good fan.
Hang up your phone.
So before we get into these two movies, just a couple of quick shout outs. We like to have a few shout outs at the beginning. Special shout out to my friend Mike Arnstein, who when I was with my friends in San Francisco, blurted out, "Oh, you guys should do Bugs Life versus Ants." And he was like very excited about it, and everyone ripped him a new one. I don't know why, but
I would love to do that.
Honestly,
Dude, I remember Mike. He stayed
Yeah.
at my dad's house
yeah, he did.
for like a half an hour, and then he was like, "I'm going to camp at Coachella."
I'm going to Coachella.
And then he went to camp at Coachella.
Yeah, but shout out to you, Mike. Shout out to Cole Casella. Thank you for the feedback on the podcast. You have been really helpful. Shout out to Michael Stracey. Good to see you, buddy. And then shout out to Brian Roundtree, who listens to all of our podcasts. And
Squarebush.
yeah, he hates everything that I say, but he loves everything you say, Nick. So,
Really?
Yeah.
That's cute.
That
He likes
does
messing with me.
Not
Well,
surprise me.
let me know where I land on that spectrum.
Oh, he's going to love you even more than both of us.
Really?
But yeah, thank you to all four of you. We appreciate it. And to every other listener. Nick, you got any shout outs? Good. Fuck
No,
everyone.
because you did not warn me that I would be asked that question.
I did warn you before
He
the
did.
podcast.
He did indeed.
Yeah, even our guest knows.
and
Nick.
well, then I guess
who's good at
I
listening?
wasn't
Yeah.
listening.
Well,
So
Nick, Jimmy, we are going to be doing Shutter Island versus Unsane, and there will be spoilers. So
yeah, and these are two movies that
Yeah.
you don't want spoiled.
yeah, you don't really. Yeah, they both have
Yeah.
cool twists, so you shouldn't
They're
have them
both
spoiled.
generally fun movies to watch too.
Yeah,
that's
so-
my that's our early review. I think is the synopsis.
Turn it off now if you don't want it spoiled. Nick, hit him with the synopsis of Unsane.
Unsane is the movie I am going to talk about. But I want to thank everyone for being here with us this evening in my kitchen. Unsane is the story of sorry, her name is so ridiculous. Her name is Sawyer Valentini, played by Claire Foy. She is a victim of a stalker who enters into some brief and what appears to be very pleasant counseling to tackle some past traumas involving this stalking that took place when she lived in Boston.
Yeah.
But now she no longer
She was living
lives
in Boston. Yeah, she's in some
lives
nondescript location.
elsewhere.
Pennsylvania.
She's in
Oh, is it
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania?
She's
Okay.
415 miles away from Boston now.
Okay.
She sees a counselor. The counselor seems pleasant, but Sawyer talks about potentially having suicidal ideation. So that therapist enters her into a 24-hour hold at a psychiatric facility. Turns out, if you punch a guy in the face when you're in a 24-hour hold, they keep you for longer. Two guys. She punched two dudes
She
in
kicked one of the
face.
nuts.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. But that guy was assaulting her.
Yeah, that's true.
No, he touched her shoulder.
Yeah, and he was
He
just
said,
talking
"I'm
to her
Joshua."
gently.
Or Jacob.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he did just introduce himself. Anyways, she ends up being in this hold for a lot longer than 24 hours. She learns from Jay Farrow, who I assume is doing his best impression of a decent actor. Oh, nailed it. Sorry,
Zap.
Jay. We're best friends with Jay, so
Yeah, we
we're
love
cool.
Jay.
We're
Jay,
so
come on the
much.
show.
Yeah. See that guy for nights.
She learns from him that insurance companies are super sketchy, and she's going to be in this hold for about 7 days. She's upset about this. However, she becomes even more upset when she finds out that her stalker is actually working at the facility where she will be spending the next week. Turns out that stalker, although we are led to believe is perhaps a figment of her imagination, is indeed her stalker and not
nurse.
not a figment of her imagination.
Yeah.
So after a bit of a kerfuffle,
Kerfuffle.
we haven't used that word on here, but I love that word.
No, that's a great word.
Sawyer bests her stalker, escapes from her stalker, is then captured by her stalker, kills her stalker, but never actually rids herself of her past trauma.
Wow. Beautiful.
Freeze frame.
Yeah, freeze frame at the very end.
Slow zoom.
Shutter Island.
Slow turn like Bigfoot in that old.
Oh yeah,
And
just
then
like
freeze
walking
frame.
across.
Yeah.
You guys got to watch
Or
the
Elf.
movie before you completely
Or,
understand.
or
Yeah.
Buddy the Elf
Yeah.
does it.
Just watch the movie. Lost will last like 3 seconds. You'll understand that joke.
Yeah. Shutter Island is a 2010 mystery film directed by Martin Scorsese, starring the most lovable version of Leo possible. Totally normal Leo. In it,
Controversial.
In
Fake.
it, duly appointed federal marshal Teddy Daniels arrives at Ashcliffe, a mental hospital for the criminally insane, with his newly appointed partner, Chuck. I
It's
can't
called
say it.
Patna.
His newly appointed partner.
We're gonna do really
Chuck.
bad Boston accents this
Yeah.
whole episode, everyone.
The two of them have been sent to the prison to find a missing patient, Rachel Solando, who suddenly escaped as if she evaporated straight through the walls. He also finds out that the person who set fire to his home and killed his wife, named Andrew Latis, is a patient at the prison. But over the course of the investigation, he finds that things aren't as they seem, and that there are more mysteries abound. Eventually, he finds out that he's not actually a duly appointed federal marshal, but the 67th patient at Ashcliffe, on an elaborate role-play game to get him to admit that his wife killed their children, and he killed his wife after asking why she was all wet, baby. In the end, Teddy, who is actually Andrew Latis, accepts that he's insane and committed homicide, and he agrees to undergo a transorbital lobotomy so that he is officially not a duly appointed federal marshal.
So today's two movies are Shutter Island and Unsane. They are two movies in which someone is entered into.
Sort of, yeah.
They both involve psychiatric holds and facilities and shadiness.
Yeah, and PTSD.
And PTSD.
Yeah.
PTSD.
Do you know any, like, are there
Which is
other
real.
similarities for you that you think make these two movies good to compare?
Those are like the big thematic ones. Boston for sure.
Yeah.
It's just random.
Yeah. A lot of Boston.
Yeah, trauma.
Yeah.
For sure, trauma's the big one.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the overarching theme. All right, so let's get into this, boys. Our rating scale, just to reiterate, especially to you, Jimmy, is 1 to 7, 1 being lowest, 7 being highest, and 4 being neutral or average or in between. We have 5 categories for you guys. Today, we're going back to our categories from the Gone Girl versus A Simple Favor episode, and we will be doing eye candy, spectacularity, true detective, acting, and originality. Let's get it started with eye candy. Let's start with Shutter Island. Jimmy, take it away. Eye candy, by the way, I'll just reiterate to you. Eye candy is just all the visual elements of the movie, cinematography, production design, costuming, makeup, CGI, if there's CGI, any of that. Yeah. So let us know what you think about Shutter Island.
No, it's as you know, I unabashedly love Shutter Island. I think we've seen it together 4 times.
Now 5 times.
Now 5 times together.
Yeah.
it's what is it? Visuals? What
it's eye candy. Yeah.
Eye candy? Yeah, it's a 7. Easy. Like without a doubt. The cinematography throughout the film is incredible. The scene at the death camp, where they shoot the Nazi soldiers and it pans with the shooting is incredible. Yeah. All of the little dissonant things, like the glass of water that disappears when a woman like takes a drink out of it. Yeah. Little things to like make you feel unsettled are incredible. I love this movie just for the visuals of it. Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, Nick, what did you think about it?
I gave it a 6. I don't think it's quite as like perfect as maybe you guys do, but I don't.
Fuck off, dude. Okay,
I don't. I think that the cinematography in the movie it can be a highlight sometimes, but I don't know if like the little like visual tricks like the water cup that you're talking about. I thought about that more in terms of the originality of the movie.
Okay. Yeah, I put it in True Detective. So.
Yeah, I was thinking more like...
That's just the reason why... I mean, these categories are so
right, and it is a camera...
arbitrary.
It is a little bit of a camera trick, but I don't know. Like the costumes in the movie are like so to me. I don't think they're amazing. Yeah. Although there's probably some cool detail in like Mark Ruffalo's costume and... Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
there's probably some really interesting details that we miss in the U.S. Marshal
outfits. Yeah, because you're not even thinking about that. Yeah.
No, but I'm sure that they're incorrect because they're not actual U.S. Marshal outfits, as it turns out.
Did you notice how shiny his suit was when he came out as the doctor?
Oh,
like it's a very
it's kind of like there's little sparkles on it. Yeah, I did notice that.
I have no idea what that's about.
It's glitter tweed, bro.
Oh, glitter tweed.
You ain't on glitter tweed,
dude. You're a professor and you're not wearing glitter tweed.
I'm still learning, man.
Yeah.
You don't have a package. You don't have a package of elaborate tweed suits delivered once a month. You guys got to go to glittertweed / facing off.
Yeah. Yeah, put in promo code facing off or glittertweed.com.
To get your glittery tweed blazers.
Nick, you're giving it a 6 out of 7, which is still like well above average. Do you have like
yes, I think the cinematography is excellent. The costuming is whatever to me, and then I mean like.
Do you have a scene that encapsulates?
6 is a good.
Yeah, is there a scene that really like hits it home for you to be a 6? Because that's still a really high score.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes, a couple of the ones that I wrote down. So I wrote down everything that happens in Dachau in the concentration camps is pretty phenomenal. The way that it looks is very unsettling, and it really because this movie is about PTSD. Both of these movies are about PTSD.
Absolutely.
And so like for that scene to have the kind of set design that it does and be so like the frozen bodies like spilling out of the train cars, like that's horrible.
Those are huge sets.
They're huge sets and they're disturbing and in a way that impacts you as a viewer. And then other cool shots. I mean, there's a lot of like cool shots. Like you'll probably talk about the one where they pan back and forth and you can see everything as it pans. It's the camera's moving like the Flash, like super fast, and then there's a cool scene
when the camera moves with eye contact and when it doesn't.
Yeah.
When the
Yeah,
Which
they
is
use the
also with
camera a
actor
lot as clues for the mystery. And then there's a cool scene at the beginning where they do like a flyover shot of the Jeep driving up. And
That's so cool.
like reminds me of Jurassic Park for some reason.
Yeah, a little bit how it pans in.
Sure.
Yeah, I gave it a 7 out of 7, just like Jimmy. I just think, and I think going into this movie, I had put it down in my phone as a 6, and I just forgot how great the cinematography is. I mean, they had an $80 million budget, which is pretty high. And they used actually Tarantino's main cinematographer, Robert Richardson, is the one who shot this. And while I do like Tarantino movies, I don't necessarily think the cinematography is the big standout generally. Yeah, sometimes it can be, but this is just unbelievable. I think the big thing for me is I really love the dream sequences. They are, they're so realistic to how dreams work and change around you and don't make sense until you wake up. And they give you a lot of clues about the plot, which we'll get into in True Detective. I definitely think it's like some of my favorite dream sequences since like Sopranos and Boardwalk Empire, which are the two that really do that well.
Yeah.
I also love the way that Scorsese chooses to frame certain shots and keep them steady or go quickly back and forth. Like when he's showing the prison wards, he's like ward A, ward B, and it's just like shoots very quickly over to the side and stops. And they would do that when they were in the prison. And it like really helps to figure out what is reality and what isn't and what the perspective is.
Tarantino-esque.
Yeah. And then you guys are right. I mean, the depiction of Dachau is incredible. I think the only visual thing that annoys me is also that I think Teddy's tie is just so ridiculous. I can't handle it.
I love them so much.
It's so wide.
Puffy, fat, short ties are...
They're the worst.
So cool.
But they were gifts from his wife.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
The joke is that like they're bad.
True. Yeah. I think like my favorite scene, it's either the dream sequence when he has the migraine and he's going from Dachau to his conversation with Ladis, in quotes, to finding the kids on the ground, to finding the bloody kids on the ground. And then they do that. I didn't notice this until this viewing, but the cigarette smoke reverses back into the cigarette, which is so cool.
That effect looks incredible.
Really cool.
I don't even know how they do that effect. But
When was that? Was that in one of the dream sequences?
that was in that dream sequence.
Yeah,
the one that's
when it was,
going dun,
the
dun,
nurse
when there's
Rachel
the
was taking place of his wife and his kind
right,
of, like,
and with the bloody
rehashing.
bodies around.
Yeah, that one is probably some of my favorite visuals.
It's so good. So look, that's a 7 from me, a 7 from Jimmy, and a 6 from Nick.
Yes.
Let's do Unsane Eye Candy. Jimmy, take us away.
Okay, you
Take us away or
always
take it
make
away?
the guest do it. You start.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
do it.
All right.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, Jimmy, let's hear
You
it.
start.
You
I'll
fucking start.
do it.
You
don't
start.
You don't think I could start?
Fucking five.
Buckle in, everyone. We are going to do that for the next
Yeah, it's gonna get bad.
40
Yeah,
minutes.
no, and I
Right.
can't do accents. And
Jimmy,
I will.
get us started.
Can I say 3.5?
Yeah, you
You
can.
would be the first to do so, but I
first.
don't.
Yeah,
I do not
decimals,
disagree.
baby.
Yeah, decimals are good.
Decimals, yeah, 3.5.
Okay.
There's nothing absolutely outstanding about the eye candy. It's most of the movie takes place in the hospital ward.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
super drab.
Yeah.
It's like fluorescent lighting and like stucco walls. Nothing super pretty. But it was filmed on iPhone.
Yeah, iPhone
iPhone
7 and
7.
4K.
Yeah, and like it does lead them into some like relatively interesting angles.
Yeah.
They're brave in the sense, and this goes into acting too, of letting the scene hold and not switching to another shot and letting
Right.
the actors act.
Yeah.
And they
Which
do
is
that.
helpful. It's helpful that Claire Foy is so good at acting.
Yeah.
Boy.
Like the scene where she's like in the blue room and it's just her talking and it's going around her.
It's circling them.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And then there's a few of the scenes which I don't think Gabe liked, where like it was supposed to be super dissonant. One of the times was when she was drugged with a drug she wasn't supposed to have.
Hated that.
And they had two overlapping shots, one of the front of her face and one of the back of her face.
And then it tilted.
Super chaotic.
And then it tilted at one point
Yeah.
to being like 90 degrees.
So
one of
everyone
them-
knows, because
Yeah.
I know we can get confusing when we talk about these. We're talking about Unsane, and like you should watch this movie.
Yeah, I agree. I totally think people
interesting,
should watch
yeah.
it.
It's not. So when I was gonna give it like a 3 at first, and then I thought about what I thought about the way this movie looked before I watched it, and I was like, before I watched this, I was like, there's 2 ways this could go. This is either like a 6 or a 2, because it's either going to be good,
exactly.
or it's going to miss its mark completely.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do either. It's for me, it's a 4. It's like solidly average because they
The eye candy.
the way that it looks, because they try to risk and they stuck with it. And for the most part, it works. There are highlights, like the scene where she's taken a lot of drugs that is truly jarring.
Yeah.
Where it's
Yeah.
the scene that Jimmy was just
more
talking
hated-
about.
Totally accomplishes what
It
it's meant to do.
absolutely hits its mark. And then there are other scenes where it just doesn't really work as well, but they did it. They took the
I
risk.
mean, I more hated the scene when she got drugged and then it was like vibrating.
Yeah.
I thought that was just
the
like
sedative.
we should mention the lighting too.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they really did. It seemed like they were trying to do natural lighting throughout most of it.
Yeah.
yeah, and then they
and
did
it-
like
and
a
it-
hue later.
Yeah, and it like was fairly like interesting, and it lent some ambience to it.
I mean,
but
the
most of it
movie's
was drab.
yeah, it's mostly drab, and the movie's shot in 10 days.
10 days.
At a recently,
Which is wild. That's insane to be able to
yeah,
do.
they shot this movie in 10 days at a recently abandoned mental hospital.
Yeah.
So they were like, perfect.
Yeah.
So you gave it a 4?
I gave it a 4. I think it's right in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be a little bit harsher. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 7. I mean, it's not that low. I really don't like the blue filter that they use. I know that's
But
the
I
theme.
love you in blue.
Yeah, right. Thank you for that. That was very sweet at the beginning
Was
and
that
not
not
scary
supposed to
at
be
all.
like the morning light?
Yeah, it was. Well, it was supposed to be at the end, but then you know they do it at the beginning too, where it's like panning through the
Yeah,
woods.
he
as talks.
loves her. Her stalker, Claire Foy's stalker, loves her in blue
blue.
because it's the color that she's wearing when she's the respite worker for his
Yeah.
ailing father.
Yeah.
She like reads him books.
I mean, I totally admire that Steven Soderbergh does this with the iPhone. He did it. I will say he did it a little bit better in the movie High Flying Bird on Netflix. It
He has
just
more than one movie shot on.
oh,
iPhone?
it's this one's like spectacular too. It's Andre
Steve,
Holland. is
They
in
got
it.
paid for that, right?
Yeah.
Like Apple paid.
Oh, they probably got paid.
They probably got paid more than what the movie was.
Yeah, I mean the movie was made on a $1.2 million budget. I don't know. It kind of looks grainy to me at times, and like sometimes
I
it
like
looked like
some of that.
webcam footage. But there are angles that he was able to go to that look like a Soderbergh movie.
Yeah.
But are easier to do with a small device,
like the
an-
one where they put
like
the
an
iPhone inside her desk somewhere.
Yeah,
and
that
I
was
look
the
and it's
first
like
shots.
peeking out.
Yeah.
It was super good.
I don't
I like
like
that.
when the shots were too close up to the faces to make them look insane. It kind of brings down the quality of the movie. I know this was purposely like a B type movie, but it almost felt like it could have been not a B movie, like a good movie. And there are
almost-
times
yeah,
where the
I don't know.
visuals brought down other categories for me, which we'll get into.
Okay, I see. So you're kind of saying the visuals were a little bit indulgent.
Right.
Yeah.
And then like a couple
I would
last
agree with
points to get the dolly shots in the film. I saw this. Steven Soderbergh would hold the iPhone on a DJI gimbal, but he would sit in a wheelchair and the crew member would like push him around and
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
and he'd
Oh,
go
that's
around,
funny.
which is cool because they have some really cool like tracking shots or like
they
reverse
do.
tracking shots out of a room. I do have to say the freeze frame to end the movie is like one of the stupidest
so
endings I've ever
corny.
seen. It's like the movie 7 Days of the Condor, which is appropriate to do that because that movie came out in the 70s. This movie
I have no
came out in
idea.
2018.
Yeah, and it's weird because the movie has. I would agree. The final shot is the freeze frame is ridiculous, and it takes away from the fact that the movie has that like early 90s aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of cool for most of the movie because it does seem like an early 90s like psycho thriller that like would just have passed through theaters really quickly.
Yeah.
But then has a cult following. It's made to be that kind of movie, and then that last scene is like, oh, why would you throw it in the garbage like that?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
So that's a 4 from Nick, 3.5 from Jimmy, and a 3 from me. Let's move on to spectacularity. Spectacularity is where we talk about the engagement level of the movie, whether you were fully engaged and interested, or if you were distracted and playing on your phone, or you were worried about the runtime. things like that. How engaged were you, especially because these two movies are big mystery movies? Nick, why don't you start it off?
When you said especially right there, your eyes kind of crossed.
Especially.
That was weird.
Nick, get it started. Let's talk about Unsane, Spectacularity.
Unsane?
Yeah.
I straight up gave this a 6.
Holy shit.
I wanted to know where this movie goes, and there was not a moment of the movie where I did not know, or where I lost that feeling. It's only like an hour and 38 minutes long or something.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a single moment of that 1 hour and 38 minutes where I was like, The whole time I was like, what is happening? How is this going to end? What is going on?
It's totally fair.
You screamed.
Yeah.
You
there was a moment where I
100% screamed at least one time.
It was like,
So
I don't even know.
give?
Was it the hammer? Hammer to the ankle. I go, oh!
So what? Yeah, there's a hammer to an ankle scene.
Yeah.
So what did you give it?
I gave it a 5. I still think it's above average. I think,
if you gave this less than a 5, I'm going to be pissed at you. You screamed.
I don't really watch a lot of mystery movies because there are a ton of like mystery thrillers out there, like especially on Netflix. You can go through and be like, these are terrible movies.
Yeah.
Like a lot of bad B movies. But I think that I like that like absolutely nothing at the beginning. And it kind of, a lot of intense stuff starts going on very quickly. Excuse me. A lot of intense stuff starts going on very
Straight
quickly.
into the microphone.
Yeah, I just burped right on y'all. Sorry, I'm disrespectful as fuck. Some random bits. So one thing that kind of drew me out of the movie a little bit is like sometimes there are random bits of like just straight up comedy. Like when the cop is there like flirting with the girl, which is like, it was funny, but tonally so off from the movie. And I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? Which kind of helps for being like, what's going to happen next?
That scene.
I don't know. It took me out a little bit.
That fat bald actor.
Comedian.
I don't know why I hung so long.
I'll talk about one thing after this, but I kind of want to hear what Jimmy has to say about Spectacularity.
I would say a 3 for the first 2 acts.
Okay.
And then like a 7 for the third act. Because it was really, as soon as she, and we haven't talked about this yet, as soon as she told her stalker when she was in the blue solitary room,
take this person and have sex in front of me.
go rape someone.
Yeah.
Bring them here and rape them. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck is she trying to do?
She really gets the better of him.
And that was... And I don't know. I don't think this would go into the detective one even of it. Like this movie uses like Chekhov's gun in like several ways.
Yeah, with the knife.
Yeah,
it's kind of
Chekhov's dreadlock.
It's like shit. Like she's the one with the knife.
It's Chekhov's dreadlocks.
Or the shank or whatever.
The lady with the dreadlocks has the shank.
So what would you say like out of 7 for the whole movie?
For the whole movie, 5.
Yeah.
But the first 2 acts were really just, I was trying to keep up with it.
Yeah.
I was trying to like understand what was happening, but I don't know if I would be super engaged if I wasn't about to do this podcast.
Yeah.
You know?
That's fair. Yeah. And I think it was helpful that the 3 of us were doing it. Yeah. I will say one thing for Spectacularity, bringing on Matt Damon in a cameo an hour into this movie when no one knew that Matt Damon's in it.
Amazing.
That's such a flex, and that's such a like.
It's a flex, yeah.
It's the way it will keep you engaged. You're like, Matt Damon shows up. What the hell is going to happen for the rest of this movie?
And I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, would the movie have actually changed if that whole scene with Matt Damon wasn't there?
No, I don't know.
Like, we would have known that she was paranoid
shows how
and
vigilant
full of
she is. Yeah.
Fear.
Yeah.
She's full of fear.
It would not have set up a couple of the final things she does when she kills David, her stalker.
Right.
A couple of the things she does, like the readiness that she has the mom's necklace waiting in her pocket.
Stuff like that,
we should explain.
I'm sure it was in the book or something.
Yeah.
Is this a book?
He wrote a book, remember?
His book. His big
Gift
book.
of Fear?
The Gift of Fear.
The Gift of Fear.
And like other
is
things
the name
that
of...
will make you survive.
Yeah. Dude.
I mean, I'm only giving it a 5 because like a lot of it I was laughing and distracted as hell. Like a lot of lines were just ridiculous, so it kind of took me out in that way. But it's way more engaging. I thought this was gonna be like a 2, but it's almost like how we said with Suicide Squad that it's like a car crash because you just like can't look away from it. But it's more like, it's way more exciting than that.
I don't think it's a bad movie though.
But
I don't think it's a bad one.
By the end of the movie, I was entirely invested. I was like, I want to know what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if it was good. It wasn't bad.
No,
it
it's
was
definitely
something.
yeah. I would agree. All right.
All right, let's move on to Shutter Island. Let's do spectacularity for Shutter Island. Jimmy, you want to start this?
Sure. I'm honestly not sure where to put it this time.
Yeah.
Just because we've
seen it
watched
so many times
where we watch it together. So
and we like analyze it as we're going.
Yeah, which was super fun. I gotta give it a 7, and for most of the reasons,
nice.
for most of the reasons that we're gonna get into with True Detective.
Yeah.
Because I was so curious just to figure out the fucking logic of the movie.
Right.
Of like what characters were.
Yeah, you guys have seen this
thinking.
5 times together?
Together.
Yeah.
They
I
were
think so.
both listener. I'm talking to you now. Gabe and Jimmy were both looking at each other like, is this person real?
Well, no, I think.
Yeah, no,
the whole
so many
time. I was
times.
like,
I'm going to get
that's
into this.
why-
in True
that's
at
Detective.
least
why
I
it's
know.
great.
This is like
Yeah.
the 3rd time I've seen this movie.
But that's why it's a 7 for me, is because I still have questions.
yeah, you still
about
were
it.
trying to figure it
Yeah.
out.
I
really
That's
don't
cool.
know.
That's what I'm going to I'm going to talk about that a little bit in True Detective, because this watch
Yeah.
was like, this was almost a different analytical watch than I've had.
So what
Yeah.
did you give it? Did you give it a 7?
So I actually, I gave it, I originally wanted to give it a 7. I think I'm going to give it a 6. There's a few reasons. But one thing I wanted to highlight, David Fincher almost did this movie instead of Martin
Would have been
Scorsese.
so interesting.
And I
So
just
interesting.
want that. Martin Scorsese
just
did a great
want that.
movie.
Yeah, I want that.
But I love David Fincher's probably my favorite director. I've mentioned that on the podcast. I just want to see what he would have done with this,
Give me that movie.
especially visually, but also with how creepy he could have made it.
Yep.
I think that
That's the remake we need.
yeah. We need, yeah, honestly, and I don't even think it's an insulting remake to
No,
do that.
not at all.
I absolutely love the horror nature of the filming and the score. I mean, I always talk about score. This isn't an original score, but they got this guy named, there's a guy named Robbie Robertson who helped Scorsese put together a bunch of old stuff.
What's his name?
Mom.
Yeah. And it has
Robbie Robertson. And
Say that 5
it's
times fast.
like, honestly, it's one of my favorite scores, and it keeps you so engaged as the movie goes along. I think that I'm pulled out questioning things so much that I almost distract myself by it.
Oh yeah, we did.
Like the
It's
scene
so
that we get
engaging
to
that you're
Patricia.
forgetting things.
Yeah, well, the scene where we get to Patricia Clarkson's scene in the cave, I started being like, "Oh fuck! Actually, is he insane, or is this real? Or are they trying to force him to be insane? What's actually happening here?" And I think that's why I'm gonna give it a 7 or a 6. I think when I first saw it, it was absolutely a 7. I had no idea where it was going, and it was so engaging. But Nick, what did you give it?
A 6.
Oh, you gave it a 6 as well.
Largely due to the runtime.
Yeah, it's really long.
It's a long movie, and I have developed a bit of a short attention span in my adulthood.
Fair. Totally fair. You're geriatric as fuck.
I am older than you.
That's true.
Slightly. So I don't like watching movies for a long time sometimes. And I think a lot of the reason is because it's a stark contrast to the movie that we watched immediately before it. This is the first
Right.
time we've done this podcast
Yeah.
immediately following watching
Two movies.
both
Yeah,
movies
yeah.
back to back. And if you watch Unsane is pretty crisp. It
is, Chris.
It's at like a short kind of fast pace, and then the second movie, I mean, Shutter Island is 40 plus minutes longer.
Right.
I totally feel though that Shutter Island is so much quicker.
Yeah,
Like,
it
it
almost
is.
went by faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. It doesn't feel
'cause
as
I
long
think-
as it is, but there are times that you're like, oh, what? Wait, is
Well,
Because I think you could cut out like a
Maybe
third
yeah.
of Unseen. You could probably cut out 5 minutes or so.
I know, which is
of
so
Shutter
crazy
Island.
'cause
but
it's
it would
so much
change.
longer.
But it would
Right.
change the movie.
Right.
significantly.
Yeah, and Shutter Island has that effect at the end where once you learn the twist, the rest of the movie no
Is so
longer
necessary.
seems slow.
Right.
I mean, when you watch it the first time, it's like The Prestige. When I watched The Prestige the first time, watching this the first time had a similar feel where you leave the theater like recounting it and almost thinking like, should I go back in and watch it again? And for that reason, I mean, it's obviously an elite level movie, but I don't want to give it a 7.
I mean, it's crazy that we call this that long. I mean, it is. You're absolutely right. It is a long movie.
It's a long movie.
But it's funny because it's Scorsese, who's just notoriously known for making 3-hour plus movies. Like Wolf of Wall Street is 3 hours, and it has no need to be.
No.
But it is great.
Other than just like bonkers.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. I love that movie. I just think it's too fucking long. But so that's a 6 from Nick and I, and 7 from Jimmy.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next category. Nick, what were we gonna do? Let's do True Detective.
Numero 3 is Trace.
True Detective is a category that we are going to save for mystery movies. And True Detective is basically, we ask ourselves, were we being little detectives as we watch the movie? Were there clues laid out that kept us interested in wanting to find out what the plot was going to be, what the twists were going to be? And then once we got the twists and the reveals, what were they satisfying? And did they make a lot of the movie make sense afterwards?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I think about
How
with
rusty
True Detective.
coal were you?
Exactly. So
Are you carving out aluminum people and putting them in front of police officers or not? That's the questions.
I mean, I saw Jimmy doing it the whole time. I'm not a cop, but he did.
I am living in a storage facility right now.
Oh, are you?
So yeah, with some real questionable
videotapes. Oh my god. Moving on, Jimmy. While you're talking, what's your rating for True Detective for Shutter Island?
Shutter. I mean, like I told you. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to grade everything, but it's a 7 again. This time it was the eye lines, like it's where people are looking.
Oh,
is the most interesting thing.
Absolutely, I wrote that down. It's like one of the only things I wrote down about the movie is the eye contact people make.
Because it's there's a couple points. One is Mark Ruffalo throughout the entire one, and he may be the weakest actor out of the main actors here.
I'll talk about that. Yeah,
but what he did brilliantly was little checks of Leo throughout. Of just Leo was looking at people and trying to figure shit out, and was super paranoid and all of his Leo-ness. Yeah, and Mark Ruffalo would just out of the corner of his eye look at him. And it wasn't that Mark Ruffalo was functioning. He was not functioning as a federal agent. Yeah. He was functioning as a psychiatrist checking on his patient.
Right.
And those little things are fascinating.
Yeah. If you know the twist and you go back and you watch, I absolutely agree. You see him, look at him, and it's this look of extremely brief concern.
Yeah, and it's not even just the looks at him, it's the way his eyes are moving when they're talking to the patients, the other patients, when they're doing the investigation.
He gets embarrassed when one of the patients says that he's a good looker.
Man. Yeah, he's not hard on the eyes, as my mother would say.
Yeah. And those just enhance, like you said, the mystery of the movie. I mean, can we all just agree that this is a 7?
Yeah,
one of the
it's
best
a 7.
Mystery movies of all time.
Yeah, I wrote
built for this.
Yeah, so it's one of those movies that's so good to rewatch because you now, especially knowing how it ends, you're going to focus on little clues. I think another great movie for me with that is Fight Club, where you'll notice little things that are laid in there. But I do love that he uses continuity errors to give us visual cues. Yeah. So there's the glass of water when he's talking to one of the patients who we just mentioned that killed her husband.
Leo, when Leo's talking,
yeah, you're right. When Leo's talking to the patient, she gets a glass of water. She raises the water to her mouth, but there's no glass in her hand. But when she puts it down, the water is completely empty in her cup, and the cup hits the table. You can hear it.
Yep.
And then when you see on the table, there's another shot, the water is half full. And there's a lot of themes about water in this movie, obviously, because his wife drowned his 3 kids in there. So something about that is how he's not grappling with the reality of water in his life.
What is
I think it's kind of that. There's also, I didn't notice
this. That's true. That's real.
The cardigan.
Dude, hold on. With the reality of water
in his life. Yeah, how water affects him.
That's how you feel when you wake up on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, exactly. He's grappling with
the reality of water.
Yeah. It's also there's another one I forgot to point out to you guys. The cardigan is on the cardigan switches from one Rachel to the other. There's two different Rachel Solandos. It switches at one point where one is wearing it and the other wasn't.
What actually is the meaning besides him grappling with the reality of water?
I think it's one of those things that we'll never find out. I don't know.
I think. Well, the question is how much our perspective
is real
as listeners, as viewers, as the audience is Leo's.
That's true.
That's a real thing. Like
whether what we're seeing is the reality, what he's seeing is the reality.
What he sees.
Right.
That's a real question.
Right? Because would Mark Ruffalo actually have brought her a glass of water?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is she allowed to have?
Well,
glass?
the thing is, he might not because he
it's
wasn't
sharp glass. Yeah.
He wasn't supposed to leave her alone.
Right.
Or him alone. Sorry, he wasn't supposed to leave Leo alone. That was his whole purpose.
Yeah. I mean, it's an incredibly weird scene that I think is just going to be like analyzed by people for a while. There's also a lot of other visual cues. There's like, Mark Ruffalo struggling with the gun at the beginning.
Yep.
There's all the patients waving and smiling at him as if they know him.
Yep.
There's they keep saying, why are you all wet, baby? To try to get him to remember what's happening. Also, this is a crazy thing. In the first half of the movie, Teddy never strikes his own match or uses fire to light his cigarettes.
Oh.
But as he starts disassociating from his identity as Teddy Daniels into the Andrew Latis character, who he actually is, he will use matches and stuff. And it's because Teddy as a character doesn't like matches because Andrew Latis burned his building as an arsonist and killed his wife. That was cool.
But in reality, his wife burnt down their apartment.
Yes.
And that was one of the warning signs.
He just disregarded it.
And that was the warning sign that she was sick.
So he's dealing with he's dealing with the reality of water and fire.
Exactly.
The song of fire and water.
He's
song
dealing with
of fire
and
water.
ice.
Yeah.
And water.
I have a question. So this is my last thing. After the reveal, I think, especially on this watch, because I was analyzing it so much, we were talking about this. Is it official that he was insane? Like, is it unequivocal, or is it supposed to be open-ended? Because it seemed to be unequivocal until you get to that scene in the cave and some of the scenes afterwards.
Yeah. It's always, I think
does he know if it happened? Yeah.
I think I've had this experience like a couple times through. And I should say, I have never watched this movie without knowing its spoiler.
Right.
When I was a child in ninth grade,
even then they told you?
Or in 10th grade AP Psych class.
That's some bullshit.
People said that, he was crazy the whole time. Bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm not one to get super upset about spoilers, but I've known that that was coming every time I've watched this film. I've never watched this film without that.
Right.
But almost each time when it gets to the cave doctor, which he's in the cave alone, I'm like, fuck, is he actually like...
Some of the stuff she says is like... Is he just spinning this? You said that, right? That is he just like spinning ideas?
Yeah,
in his
it would
head?
be him using this whole scenario and elaborating it in a way that they don't have control over.
Right.
But the thing that convinces me the most of like leaving open the possibility that he's not insane, that they are going to do Nazi experiments on him.
Yeah.
Because I want that to remain an option, because I think that would be the best version of this movie.
Yeah.
Is and we talked about this, that scene wouldn't be worth a whole bunch if that wasn't a live option.
The cave doctor scene?
Yeah.
The cave, if it was absolutely definitive that he was crazy the whole time, then just cut that scene.
Right.
You really don't need it.
Right. If you pulled that scene out of the movie, would it make it more official or definitive that he is insane?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to leave some ambiguity there.
I agree.
But then once you get to Ben Kingsley in the Lighthouse Tower, it felt, again, for me, of like, oh shit, he is just crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I think that...
Because they lay it out.
I'm so convinced that Ben Kingsley is like a good person.
Yeah.
So
I am too.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, there's still...
I don't think that's ambiguous.
In his
I think
face,
that Ben Kingsley is... And Mark Ruffalo, I think that everyone in this movie is a good person.
But I can't get past...
I don't know about Max von Sydow or Ted Levine.
Yeah, those guys are the opposite side of the aisle.
I can't get past like 97% certainty, though. And I don't think any amount of watching this movie is going to get me past that.
Well, I don't think he's insane. He's traumatized.
Well,
sure.
But to a point where he's visualizing.
To a point where
things.
he
needs
created
medication.
He's created a disassociative identity, and then he's fallen back on his like aggressive.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. I mean the old-fashioned way of calling someone insane.
He's a soldier.
Yeah. We should be.
I should
talk about our language.
You work in psychology. Yeah, I understand.
You're right.
He's not. Yeah, that's the most amazing thing this is the most amazing part about this movie to me is that he is not. I don't think he's ever insane.
Yeah.
I think he's extremely delusional.
Yeah, I mean
the whole movie.
That's
and
what
then
I mean.
when Ben Kingsley's character is like, I'm just trying to see if this last ditch effort is gonna work. I was like, dang. And then there's like a beat there.
Yeah.
Where then you look at Leo again and you're like, it didn't work though.
Right.
Yeah.
Not right
no,
now.
I think he
and then
did.
eventually it does. But at that moment you're like, I don't think it worked, man.
Yeah.
And then like like 5 minutes later it does.
I mean, that's fair to say. I think what Jimmy and I were saying, we were using insane in more of like a generic term of like anything where you're having illusions and shit.
Right. No, it's ambiguous,
right,
but I think he is delusional the whole movie.
Yeah, but that's what even if he's delusional, that's what we were saying. Yeah. Like, that's insane at the same level. We're not saying, like, clinically insane because we're not doctors. We're saying, like, the generic way of calling someone insane if they're having
Wait, so you
like
don't
that.
think he's delusional?
No, I do think he's delusional. I'm saying we're calling delusional also insane.
You guys should have a fight.
This is just an unnecessary argument. It's not even an argument. I think you're just misunderstanding what I'm saying.
You're both on the same page.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Anyways, let's do True Detective for Unsane. Nick, why don't you start with that?
Yeah.
Unsane, True Detective.
This is tough because, like I said, for spectacularity, like I did want to know what was happening the whole time. I just don't know that at the end, when you do find out what happened the whole time, that it's like a meaningful payoff.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 5, but I wanted to give it a 4, but I'm going to give it a 5 because I still was pretty much the whole time trying to figure out what happened. And then at the end, I was like, oh, it's exactly what she thought happened.
Yeah.
She's just like kind of an asshole.
Yeah. What did you give it, Jimmy?
I'm going to be a little bitch and just give it a 2.
Oh, wow.
Because
Okay,
of that.
cool.
And
Because the payoff is not what you wanted it to be?
Yeah. Because I wanted something and I was paying attention, and then eventually, like, the clues I thought were going to be big weren't huge. They were huge in terms of like the Chekhov gun of like using something which appeared before in like as a narrative device later.
Dreadlocks.
Chekhov's dreadlocks.
Chekhov's
and that's great.
Spoon shank.
But there's one point where at the beginning of the movie where we're still unsure about like whether or not the guy's really her stalker or if she's just hallucinating him.
Right.
Where he puts the drug, an extra drug in the drugs that she's supposed to take. And I was like, shit, that establishes, and she doesn't see it.
Yeah.
So we see it, she doesn't.
Right.
And
So
that establishes objectivity.
That's a great point.
It means that what we're not sure of in Shutter Island, it means that our perspective as the audience, if the movie's consistent,
we're aware of something she is.
Yeah,
aware of.
it is an objective perspective.
Yeah.
But then it's like,
great point.
then it just like, it's not like that's a clue that we should like hold on to that's going to have payoff later. It just is. It just, he is that guy.
And then it just proves that she's right the whole time.
Right.
Because she's just like, yeah, that's him though.
And it
And
is as
everyone's
simple
like,
as-
it's not.
And then
Claire.
there's the second one, because this has two big twists that are not related at all. Of it is her stalker and
Jay Farrow?
Jay Farrow is, I don't think we've mentioned this yet, is an undercover journalist talking about insurance.
Which is why he seems super crazy earlier when he's like talking to his phone and he's like, they are doing it. It is something that is something worth
I couldn't
noting.
hear what he was saying.
And I was like,
Yeah.
but I couldn't either. That's why I just said absolute
It's
nonsense.
such a big thing that's so quick.
Yeah, they kind of just
Yeah,
throw
and then
that
all
at
of a
you.
sudden it's like, boom. Yeah, by the way, Jay Farrow was doing a whole inside scoop
right.
thing, and here's the scoop, dude.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
It's almost like a Deus Ex Machina kind of thing, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
by the way, he did like figure all this out, so that's why she's like
he was
released
great. He wasn't
now,
really an
and everyone's
opioid
all
addict.
good with her like punching a bunch of people and like pouring hot coffee on people's faces. It's all good.
Yeah.
They were janky, so
I think I'm
we're
like
good.
somewhere.
janky.
I think I'm somewhere in between the two of you. I gave it a 4 out of 7. I think it's kind of average. I expected to give it a lot less because I thought it was just gonna be stupid in the end. I think it's kind of cool that early on it gives you glimpses of certain things. Like it gave you like a glimpse of her being super closed off as like a symptom of her PTSD from a stalker.
Yeah.
She also talks about the therapeutic index, which I forgot about. Like maybe they handle that later because she was like going through what the therapeutic index was early on, and I think that like changes.
And we should say she is like a little in what Nick was talking about. She is a little delusional.
She is a little.
She is like
delusional.
hallucinating her
Yeah,
stalker's
she's
face.
seeing people's faces.
especially at the
People,
end. I like that they show. There was also some foreshadowing. They show the ring. That she swallows
The
just to like
cross.
find that out. The cross is the biggest one. They show Soderbergh purposely makes the mom the fiddle with the cross, and it's like right in the center of the screen. And then later she uses that cross from her mom's necklace to she figures out that that's her mom in the car based off of the cross,
because
and
it
then
was dark.
she uses it to like stab him in the eye and then stab him in the throat. I do think there's just like a lot of cool. I don't think there's a lot of clues, but I think that he was smart. Like he didn't leave anything at the beginning like forgotten. There wasn't
I agree
any,
with that.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I agree with
through. The movie's
Yeah.
thorough for sure.
Yeah.
I don't
With,
really
like-
know how to talk about the end though, because I also felt like it was kind of stupid and silly in the end. But I do want.
It was a little silly.
I don't know how to tackle the end either.
I think
'cause
it was just confusing
it
enough
doesn't
to keep
ruin
us
the
in.
movie, but it does
Yeah.
sour it.
We should
Yeah.
say what it was. That she was just like a big bad like business lady again.
Yeah.
And like she fired somebody who used to be her friend.
But I don't think she actually fired
But
her
I
because
think
they were
she's
like playfully
but she's
joking.
joking.
That's a
but it's
weird joke, dude.
Everything in the end was
It's-
weird. I kind of
and then-
like
and
the
then
idea.
she sees her stalker's face on
Which is
another
cool.
guy again, and then it looks like she almost kills,
murders a dude.
murders a guy
Broad
in a
daylight.
restaurant.
Yeah.
Which is there's like a subtle thing where she's like, why do we always eat at this restaurant? It's because she can't leave her trauma.
Right. She's,
Even after
she's
all
stuck
of
in
this-
her
That's a
ways.
good-
yeah.
I
Even
didn't
after
pick that up.
killing her aggressor, she can't leave it behind because it's part of her.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, let's move on. So that's a 5 from Nick, right? And then that's a 2 from Jimmy and a 4 from me.
We're all
Let's
over
talk
the
about
place.
Too
acting.
baby.
Acting will be our next category. Acting is just mostly about the performances. How good was the acting in the movie, and did the director and writer give the actors the tools to work at the best of their abilities?
Were the Unsane first?
Were the performances believable? Let's go with Unsane first. I'll get it started
You
on this
go.
one.
Yeah.
I give it a 3 out of 7.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think that Claire Foy is a tremendous actress. She's really good. Apparently, she's great on The Crown, but I loved her in First Man. She's doing a lot in this movie, and it's tough.
Almost all of it.
Almost all
of the things she could do, she's doing it in this movie.
Unfortunately, she kind of speaks in a theatery voice because that's like, I'm a hysteric woman, and like she like does that, but like
Want it, daddy?
Yeah, but like sometimes it turns into a British accent because she
Yeah, it
is
does.
British, so it's kind of weird. But I think that her face really works for this. I wrote down that some of the side performances are really bad. Like
Yes.
the nurse who evaluates her at first is almost vomiting through her lines. Like she just spits them out as quickly as possible. I think the dialogue is really bizarre in general.
I think it's not good, but it's like the movie. It's not good, but it's not bad.
No, it's
yeah,
not.
it's definitely B level. But
It's
I can't tell if Juno Temple, the girl who played the dreadlocks one, was like good or overacting a bit. But I think she kind of nailed it.
Wait. Can you say that again? You can't tell if she was good or overacting a bit.
Yeah.
That's literally how I feel about everybody in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Jay Farrow, but Jay Farrow wasn't even overacting. He was
wasn't.
just like kind of funny or
He was
not
either,
even trying.
He was either good or just like flat as hell.
Yeah.
I drew his arc, Jay Farrow.
I think we can establish that.
You have all the Jay Farrow.
I think we can now establish that Matt Damon is the GOAT of movie cameos.
Absolutely.
he's got to beat Fabio, right? Like, he's got to be better than Fabio at this point. He's so good at movie cameos.
Wait until Matrix 4 is released in the next couple years, and Fabio is like some random.
I know, right? He's
cameo,
but it's like a good cameo,
but it's like
a really
amazing.
important.
You're like, oh
one.
my god, he was the robot master the whole time. Like, just something weird. Would love that.
That's kind of my point. I think you guys are going to talk about it, but I think the guy who plays David Strine, who's a very important character, is not good. He's like really bad.
No, he's horrible, and a huge reason why I gave it a 3 as well, because I do think Claire Foy is really good. That's just how Claire Foy's American accent sounds.
A little bit. She's really good at a Southern accent.
There's a few points where it was straight up British.
Yes, there's a few points where it's straight up British.
Would hit.
There are also, and I will point this out as a knock on her, there are 0 points where it's Bostonian.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, some people are from Massachusetts and they don't.
She didn't knock it out of the park. So.
She didn't knock it out of the park. What, Jimmy? Did you give it? What'd you give it?
4.
4? Oh, wow!
Nice.
First time he's higher.
Ooh.
Nice.
Because Claire Foy was really great, I think, in terms of what she did. I don't think that the writing gave them a bunch to work with.
No.
Like the nurse you mentioned, like, I don't know what more she could have done.
I know.
There really wasn't.
Well, I just feel like she spit out her lines
She
really
was
quickly,
just cast as like a huge B, though.
Yeah, true.
It's possible it was
They
the
just
directing.
wrote, a lot of the characters are written as like this very kind of straightforward thing.
There's one man, all he says is, I'm Jacob.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That is all he said.
And then Claire Foy stands up immediately and disregards.
That might be the fourth most developed character.
Jay Farrow follows this very interesting arc where you're like, wow, Jay Farrow's not doing so bad. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, Jay Farrow has fallen off.
Yeah.
We need to talk about the peak of that arc, though.
The peak of that arc is an amazing line.
Yeah.
Where she says, can I borrow your phone? And he's like, no. And then she tries something and he's like, nah, dude, sorry. And then she's like, I'll S your D. And he's like, and he says, okay, here's my phone. You got 10 minutes. And then she comes back and she's like, and then this is also somehow the scene where they become boys.
Yeah.
They're boys.
Somehow after all of this, they're like, we're boys now. She comes back from the phone call and is like, rain check on the blowjob. And he says, wish I could go one day without hearing that. And then after that, nothing he does is good acting. And also they're homies.
He's like, I got my check from this.
Wait, hold on.
They're just friends the whole
thought
rest
about
of the
it.
movie.
If he got a blowjob, I think he'd be abusing his duties as a journalist.
Absolutely. Why did he say the line, I wish I could go one day without hearing that?
I think it's just funny.
It's funny.
How many women is he loaning his phone to?
I'm convinced that was improv too. Because I think
so too.
I want to love Jay Farrow every time I see him, and I never quite
It sort
do.
of looks like it is too, because she walks out of frame and it looks like, oh, maybe Soderbergh thought like she'd walk out of frame and then he'd like cut it to something else. But
and then he's just like,
but then he just very quickly says the line and it's like,
so funny.
But I mean, he's not good. The actor that plays possibly the most important character in the movie, David Strine, not the stalker, is
like, think if they got
it's his face. Honestly, it was the way he like even when he's not talking.
I think it's everything. Jimmy, can you do it real quick? Can you do the impression?
I don't remember.
You need to see Jimmy's face to be able to really
like,
get it.
What?
He does this.
Yeah, he attacks her. It's so fucking
He attacks her. She talks real sense into him in a way that hurts him deeply, and then he goes,
It's bad.
It's so
All right,
weird.
let's move on to that was a 4 from Jimmy, a 3 from me, and a 3 from Nick. Let's talk about acting in Shutter Island.
Yeah.
I gave it I think I gave it a 6. I gave it a 6 because of everything but Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
There's a couple times there's just sometimes with Mark Ruffalo you're like, what is wrong, man? And then most of the time he's amazing. And then every once in a while you're like, it's just like head scratching.
I got a
like,
fun
what's
fact,
up, dude.
He got the role because he sent he personally sent like a fan letter to Martin Scorsese and was like talking about how much he loves the movies and how he would always just want to work with him, and Martin Scorsese chose him for it. And now Mark Ruffalo is one of the bigger actors. So.
And I think he's a good actor.
He's a great actor. He sometimes is off. But
that's what I'm saying. There's sometimes where you watch him, and there's a couple times in Shutter Island where you're like, what are you doing, Mark?
Yeah.
You know? But most of the time, everyone is extremely good. Leo's extremely good.
Killer.
Ben Kingsley is extremely
Sir
good.
Ben Kingsley, mind you.
Dame.
Yeah.
He's a man. He's a legitimate male.
Yeah.
He hasn't proved that yet. He
It's
probably
true. I have
has
not
at some
seen.
time. I wouldn't be surprised if we've seen his dinger.
His dinner.
Oh, definitely seen his penis in something. Maybe Sexy Beast. I can't remember. That
Email
movie's
us
awesome.
if you've seen Ben.
Have you seen Ben Kingsley's penis? Email or call us at this number. We are trying to solve this mystery.
But it's a 6 for me. It's extremely good, except for sometimes Mark Ruffalo. Go
What
ahead.
about you, Jimmy?
I don't want to give it a 6. I want to give it a 7. So I will
So
give
do
it a
it.
7.
Yeah, dude,
It's
you
a
can do
7.
7.
It's an arbitrary
possible.
rating
Fuck
system
it.
designed to spark conversations.
Right.
But I entirely agree. I'll say Leo's character is written so well, and he fucking nails it.
Yeah.
He's so good at line reading.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for us, like we could see at the beginning, you can see he's fucked up.
Yeah.
But like he seems like, oh, this guy could be a real federal marshal.
Yeah.
Like he could, but by the end of it, like he is fucking falling apart.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
decaying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything, everything about it is just so like textbook trauma.
Yeah.
Of like what trauma is, and I'm looking at the psychologists, is like not being able to come to terms with something. It's when something happens that does not fit into like the way you like think the world is. And it's what breaks those like interpretive frames we have of what's possible. And then like when his frame was broke, he just made a new one.
Yeah.
And I think that like he fucking nailed it.
He does.
that's
Everything.
really well said.
Everything that happens to Andrew Latis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You end up seeing happen to Leo.
Yeah. Right.
I need to say, and this is a John Mulaney joke of him talking about this trope. Mark Ruffalo has one line read where he says, I've been your doctor for the past 3 years, where it's, that bathroom was closed. For 40 years. Like it's so corny.
Yeah.
Of just like, this is a twist.
Right. And it's a matter of fact.
It's like, actually, I'm saying the twist right now.
Yeah,
and the line is
exactly.
delivered just like that.
Exactly.
Gabe,
And
why don't you
I do love Mark Ruffalo.
tell us your rating right now?
I gave it a 6 as well as Nick. I think Leo, as you both know, Leo's my favorite actor. I'm obsessed with
That
him.
boy.
He's just like, you could put anyone else in any of those scenes, especially the last few scenes, with the emotional range he has in the last few scenes.
Yeah.
No one can do that. I think he's incomparable as an actor. Like no one is close to that.
Timothy Chalamet.
No. Timothy Chalamet is amazing. He's
Jake
an incredible.
Gyllenhaal.
No.
Gyllenhaal could do it.
No, I don't think he can. No.
He could get close.
He could get close. I think like there are actors.
Slap that microphone away from your face. Gyllenhaal can do anything.
No, I love Jakey G and I love I love him a lot, but I think that Leo handles emotional like extremes well to a point that it's not corny.
Yeah, knocks it out of the park.
I do agree with Nick about the Mark Ruffalo thing. That kind of took me out. Ben Kingsley's great. Max von Sydow is amazing as the other doctor, Dr. Nehring.
He has such an
The German
interesting
one?
The German one,
He has such an interesting look on his face a lot of the time where you can just like, I love that, where you can see the feeling he has.
And the
another True Detective
analyzation
thing.
that he's having. Yeah.
You can,
like,
you can
where he's
see
like,
him,
I'm not fucking on board with
Right.
Yeah,
this.
you can just see him be like, you're pitiful.
Yeah.
And I don't trust you, and I think you're a violent
Another
animal.
person who's great, Emily Mortimer, is only in like one
love her.
scene.
She's so good.
And as a Rachel
Two.
Solando, and she is so good. That scene confuses the shit out of me because I don't understand who gave her the lines she had. She's acting so crazy, but it's great.
The one thing to justify my 7 more is characters that only had one scene through Shutter Island fucking kill it.
Yeah,
like they're so good.
I mostly agree with that.
Who don't you like?
So there some of the side performances, I don't know what it is, but there's something off about them.
I love Rorschach.
Jackie Earle Haley is amazing. You're a rat in a mice. You did this. Hey, you're the androlitis. No, there's like the orderly that like fucks up and like goes and takes a piss. Like he's good in Maniac, but like I don't know. There's something a little off, and I think Mark Ruffalo brings it down.
Yeah, true. There's a way to interpret that of like saying that the character was a bad actor and he didn't know how to respond.
Right, because he had to.
But that's cheap.
Right.
That's
fair.
Yeah.
I also think Michelle Williams is kind of overdoing it with her accent. I think a lot of the accents are overdoing it with their accents.
Mark Ruffalo for sure.
Mark Ruffalo. Ted Levine shows up for just one scene or a couple scenes. He's the guy, he's talking about that scene is so good when he's talking about violence.
What's the line?
Incredible.
He says, hey, if I were to
real quiet
sink my teeth into your eye, do you think you could stop me before I blind you? And he's like, yeah, why don't you try?
Yeah, Leo squares
Leo
up
kind
a
of
little
looks
bit.
at his lips too and back at his eyes. He's like, why don't you try? And then he's like, attaboy. And I love that. That whole scene is incredible. So I do like the performances. It's just like a little bit that brings it down to not a perfect score.
Right.
So let's talk about what's our last category? We're going to talk about originality. So let's actually talk about Unsane first for originality. What did you give it, Jimmy?
He's thinking.
Yeah, come back to me. I'm not sure.
This is a tough one.
I gave it a 2.
I want to hear what you gave it a 2.
Yeah, so I think that it's creative to a certain degree. It's definitely a way different story than I expected it to be, but I think it ultimately comes down to what Jimmy was saying earlier, that I didn't really feel satisfied in the end with where it went. I thought it could have been more ambiguous. Or it could have been a little bit crazier and like I really like the idea of, and not a lot of movies have handled this, but the idea of PTSD as like a theme throughout it of the stalking. I like that in the end, she's not free of it. She's not ever going to be free of this thing, regardless of what happened. And I just felt like I was questioning a lot of the intentions of the movie and the plot. Like I didn't really know what its point was. I don't know if it really had a point. And it's just been done before. These type of movies. I mean, it's been done with Shutter Island,
right?
Like it's been done with Cure for the wellness or whatever.
A cure,
which we almost did for this, and it could have been a worse movie. I haven't seen it, but it could have been a worse movie. It would have been a better disparity.
Way worse Rotten Tomato ratings.
But visually, it looked fucking amazing. I remember watching the trailer with Jimmy in Boston.
It's also like
with Dane DeHaan.
It's also entirely too long. It's like
is it?
Two.
That's crazy.
2 3/4.
Yeah, we don't
Nick, what did you give originality to, or Unsane for originality?
Tough one. I gave it a 4, and largely because I do think that the final moment, like actual final moment, is like really stupid.
Yeah.
But it does have a point. The point is that Sawyer Valentini is always going to be looking over her shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's either got to accept that that's who she is, and she's got to find a way to live with that part of her, or she's just going to always pick up a knife at a restaurant and almost kill a handsome guy.
I mean, that was more visually dumb than like
he was handsome.
He was a handsome dude.
And
he almost stabbed him. She almost stabbed him in the neck.
In the fucking neck. You could see like how she was gonna.
However, it's full of a lot of like things that are not particularly original, but I almost think that when at the end is not ambiguous and does have a clear point to it, and of course the fact that they immediately give themselves point by shooting the whole thing on an iPhone 7 gives it enough that I think that it's original enough to make it average.
Yeah.
I can't think of a big enough knock to knock it down, and I can't think of a big enough plus to bump it up.
Which is why I'll give it a solid 4.
Nice. I convinced Jimmy.
Think about. I decided this before you spoke. But no, it's like I think of this movie. What if this was a 25-minute short? This could be fucking good.
Yeah.
If it was super pacey, like hitting like each like story point every like
so
5 minutes or
dialogue,
something.
and you
just got through it.
Just pumped the audience full of close-ups of Claire Foy.
1.2 million, right?
1.21 gigawatts. Yeah. It was 1.2 million.
1.2 million
is the budget of this movie.
It was 10 days. I really don't think that they shot much more than was in the movie.
Right.
In 10 days. It was like solid. I think it like explored trauma fairly well. We've already talked about how like everything just being like the case is super like not that interesting. Totally. Of it just like, oh, she is like delusional. They are like frauding people to like holding them to get insurance money, and the guy is her stalker. It's like, okay, all of those. Everything got
It's like, oh, she was right the whole time.
Well, that's it's that, and there were a lot of like conveniences in the storyline that just things worked out.
Right, and there is an interesting story there that she is right about everything, and nobody listens to her the whole movie.
Yeah. Which I will say,
she's just like, hey, I'm a boss. Like I do a good job at everything, and like, no one listens.
And one thing that we haven't talked about is 3 relatively white cisgendered straight males. I don't know what you are.
I am a white cisgendered straight male.
Yeah. We like there is like in people not listening to her, there is like a gendered component to Unsane that's not there in Shutter Island.
Yeah.
I don't know about the movie you mentioned, but it's it makes it into something like fairly significant that we should listen to. It like, and this movie could be better.
It could be better, but it is a far less shallow movie than I thought, and I think that
I agree.
What did you give it, Nick?
I give it a 4.
And you gave it a 4 as well?
You gave it a 2.
Yeah, that's fine. 2. So let's finish this off with Shutter Island originality. I gave it a 6 out of 7. I really love the book. Dennis Lehane wrote it. He's done a lot of Boston crime thrillers. I don't really remember if there were a lot of differences in it, but I know that a question that Nick and I normally ask in terms of originality is like whether it needed to be made if it exists in some other form. And I really do think it did. I think that it adds, certainly for Scorsese's catalog, like it is... I think it's a step up from Cape Fear. You can come at me with that bullshit, but Cape Fear is good, but I think this is like a step up and it's a little more mysterious. Yeah. I think the ideas there's a lot of ideas that flow through this movie and Unsane, but the ideas of insanity and grief are so strong and so fleshed out in this movie that I love it. I don't know. I also think I said this towards the end. I think it really handles post World War II PTSD so well. Right. And the scenes of World War II are some of the most beautiful and haunting scenes I've ever seen at the Dachau concentration camp. And I think the idea of violently getting revenge for something that happened or committing violence to stop violence is something crazy, and I think it's really well laid out and written.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
I think I don't know why I don't think it's the most original movie. And so I'm being a little bit harsh with that, but I do think like one thing that's really original about this movie is that it gives you a big plot dump at the end and a bunch of exposition about his life, but all of the clues for his life were laid out the whole movie. So it's not like you're just getting it at the end.
And you have that you have an extended scene of his past that typically, I think in most other movies like this, that extended scene at the end would seem unearned.
Right, but it's movie, just showing you all the clues put together.
Right, in this movie, it's earned.
Yeah. The weird thing about that scene is also like visual of it, like the color template in when they go to the house at the lake is completely different.
Right.
Yeah,
and it's this weird beauty mixed with horror.
This like
which
brown
is,
green.
Yeah, which is
the
also
greens are all highlighted.
Actually, why like that compared to the what is it, Krakow?
Dachau.
Dachau. That compared to Dachau, which is like horrible upon horrible. It's grays and
white
blacks.
And gray and black.
Yeah, and like in the dead of winter, and there's snow on the ground and everything. That horror happening abroad, and like in a setting like that, compared to the horror which happens at this beautiful American scenic, like perfect idyllic setting, is like so fast. I fucking love this movie so much.
Did you give it a 7?
Yeah, it has to be a 7 for me. And it's because like this is one of the movies which defined what good movies were for me.
Right.
In the way that you said, like, can we imagine this? Like, why does this movie have to be made?
Right.
For me, this movie was made so I could understand what a good movie was.
Yeah.
Like,
a good, especially one in this type of genre that's not normally handled well.
And like one I'm still like 7th or 8th watching, I'm still getting a ton out of it.
Yeah.
Like I fucking love this movie. Love.
What did you give it, Nick?
I also gave it a 6.
Yeah.
I would say all the same things that you did, really. I don't think you.
Is there anything that kind of brings it down a little bit for you? Or is it more that you just don't think it's like perfect?
I think there's a lot of like mystery movies. I just think that this is elite amongst them.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's like necessarily. They didn't bring in a lot that's like I would say is original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it is like specifically.
But it's all interesting.
It's in a way aware of its history.
Yeah.
Like there's been stuff talked about with how this is related to Alfred Hitchcock stuff.
Yeah.
In the way it was filmed.
Absolutely. It's Scorsese, to get a feel for the movie, he watched Vertigo and I think Out of Nowhere were the two movies. Yeah.
Wasn't that Northwest?
I mean, probably North by Northwest as well. But he was talking about those two movies like impacting the story. But I think North by Northwest, if you watch, like I've been fortunate to see a lot of Hitchcock movies. I think you've seen them as well. And like if you watch those, Hitchcock builds mystery really well.
Yes, he does.
I think that Scorsese, because Scorsese almost has more time to do it because movies didn't used to be so long, because he has more time and certainly a bigger budget to do it. He did it really well, and a lot of that credit goes to the person who wrote the screenplay. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but it's great. And the book, and I do recommend that both of you guys read the book. It's
I will.
really
I
quick.
will.
It's a super quick read.
I got to
for both of you.
Really nice.
Yeah. All right, so let's add it up then. Do you know your scores, Jimmy?
I do know what my score is.
Nice.
After careful note taking.
Yeah.
My score for
Unsane.
Unsane was 18.5.
18.5 out of 35.
Decimals, baby.
And then Shutter Island was 35 out of 35.
Yeah.
It's a perfect movie to Jimmy. It's one of his favorites.
It is. It may be my like.
We've talked about this. I think it is. You've mentioned multiple times.
But on this watching, there's been movies which have taken its place several times over the past couple years.
Of shift.
Yeah, of course. But this right now, I feel like again, this has become my favorite movie.
Yeah.
What's your Shutter Island score, Gabe?
My Shutter Island score is 32 out of 35. I think that's tied for my best score so far. And then 17 out of 35 for Unsane, which I expected it to be an 8, but very good.
No surprise. I gave the highest score out of any of us to Unsane. I gave it a 22.
Oh shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I gave Shutter Island a 31.
Yeah. Nice.
Which would make our total scores... Unsane is 57.5
out of 105,
and a 98 out of 105.
Yeah, holy shit! Baby. That is I think that's a winner for our best.
It might be
so
definitely
far.
for the best that 3 people have talked about.
Well, I've done my job.
So those are our scores.
Let's end this with some accolades.
Yeah,
accolades
absolutely.
are always fun. Do you guys have an MVP for both of these movies? You can have multiple MVPs. Nick, do you have one?
MVP at the end of the whole thing for both of these guys. It's either Ben Kingsley or Jay Farrow, and I don't think there's
holy shit, no.
A further gap between 2 potential MVPs.
Oh, Ben Kingsley's your favorite performance in Shutter Island?
I don't know he's my favorite performance, but he's my favorite character.
Yeah.
At the end of the whole thing, you're just like, oh,
he's
Ben Kingsley really tried, but and he's like, it's a radical thought to treat people like people. It's like, Yeah, I guess you were radical. Back then,
he keeps
friend.
correcting people. Like even like Leo, he says like they're not prisoners. They're patients.
Yep.
I think it's Ben Kingsley. Although Jay Farrow does come through clutch, and he's fairly entertaining for the majority.
Do you have an MVP for these,
Unsane?
Jimmy?
Well, like the easy one's Leo.
Yeah, I mean, Leo's so. If you compare the two leads, Leo is like Claire Foy was good.
Claire Foy was good.
Leo is like leagues ahead
Also,
of Claire Foy.
he had way more to work with than she did.
Yeah, I mean,
way more.
Like a better version of someone who is not like comfortable with their sanity. Like Natalie Portman in Black Swan is one of my favorite ones where she doesn't understand the nature of what's happening around her and she's trying to come to grips with that.
Right.
But yeah, do you have like an actual MVP or is that it? Leo?
Yeah, that's
Leo's fine.
Leo it is.
I was gonna go with either Leo or Martin Scorsese. I can't believe how good the cinematography. Robert Richardson too. Like I can't believe how good Shutter Island is visually. And we were rewatching it, and we were watching it in the standard version of the movie. Like that movie is so good.
Like dumb children, but it's not just visuals like blank. These are pretty things.
Yeah,
it's they tie so deeply with the main themes of the film.
Yeah,
and that's Scorsese.
Yeah,
like.
Do you guys have an LVP? I'm gonna go with the guy who plays David Strine. I'm not even gonna look up his name. That guy sucks at acting. Sorry, guy, you're really trying. I feel bad because people really try, and I'm sure he's actually an okay actor.
Perhaps he's decent in something sometime, but not.
I gotta say, Dred's girl. I forgot what the actor's name was.
Juno Temple.
Juno Temple just did Catch Me Outside. How about that?
Yeah, that's pretty much her character.
That was pretty much the whole character.
Yeah,
I thought whatever.
You guys have like favorite scene in Shutter Island, or even in Unsane? You could say either.
I really liked the scene in Unsane where she's taken an extra drug.
Oh Jesus, that's like the best of both.
Solid.
That's not the best of both, but you guys are going to highlight other scenes, so I'm just going to say that's like a legitimately good scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Jimmy? You like that editing effect?
I did, and I thought that the music, everything else about it was like,
yeah.
There's the dream sequence where he replaces his wife, the blonde woman,
right,
with the woman from Newsroom and stuff.
Yeah, Emily Mortimer.
Mortimer. I don't know names.
No, not a lot of people know her. She's not that big.
Yeah, I've seen her in so much. Though.
Yeah, but she's great in the Newsroom,
and she's very good. She's a wonderful actor. That was like visually and emotionally like super stirring. And then I just think the scene in the lighthouse where they're confronting him is like an emotional peak. And it's actors like killing it, other than Mark Ruffalo. And I love him so much.
Yeah, some of what Mark Ruffalo says is good.
But Ben Kingsley and Leo play off of each other brilliantly.
Yeah. I love both of those scenes. I really like... I love the scene where Teddy is talking to Dr. Niring, the German doctor, the first time, and they're going back and forth, kind of hitting each other with like little slams at each other's profession. But
super catty.
But that's the first time it's really cutting to Dachau because he's getting the musical cue of Mahler in the background, and it is... The way that scene is edited and filmed is unbelievable. The way that the papers are flying in the air and it's so well paced or structured to the point where when Dr. Niring is saying certain things about violence in men and what type of person he was in war, it cuts to the exact moment that he takes the gun away from the guy who tried to commit suicide.
Yeah.
The one who was running the concentration camp tried to commit suicide, and he wants him to die out slowly. And that's a moment probably in his life that changed him. Although it is alluded to later that there were no soldiers killed. I don't know if you guys...
Ben Kingsley says like you may or may not have shot soldiers at Dachau.
Yep.
Which is really interesting. And again, like another hint of like what we're seeing is like part of Leonardo's hallucination delusion.
Right.
Right.
Do you guys know what the difference is between a boozer and a drunk is? Because in that scene,
Is there a technical term?
Leo says,
technical
I'd be happy to
difference?
call myself a boozer.
yeah, he said he's a boozer and a drunk or something like that. Leo says, I don't know
What's
who
the
he's
difference?
talking
There's
about.
a difference?
No, he says both. Like, what
Oh, are
is
you
the
asking
difference?
legitimately?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
your
no, I don't
fields-
know the
Your
difference.
field's full of boozers and drunks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you have any quotes you want to highlight from either of these? that we didn't
I
talk
have a
about?
couple, but I don't know if we've already covered them. I think we've covered them.
This place makes me wonder, which would be better, to live as a monster or die as a good man?
Yeah.
Such a good line. That's like, what's better, that line or the Dark Knight one where it's like
That
you
one.
either die a
That
hero?
one. That one.
Yeah.
You're a simpleton.
You don't like the Dark Knight one, or the Dark Knight one is? You either die as a hero
yeah,
or
no.
live long enough to see yourself become a
Yeah.
monster. It's such a good line.
It's a solid.
Yeah. This
like-
one is actually delivered in a more appropriate fashion.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
The other
Leo's
one's
a
just like
better actor.
thrown at you.
I've got a couple funny Unsane lines.
Yeah,
One
I'll
is just such a sick burn. You're a simpleton, David.
Oh, yeah.
You're a dunce.
Oh yeah.
And I was like,
that was hard. That was hard.
Slammed him.
he is a simpleton and a dunce.
Do you guys have any recommendations of movies? Oh, wait. Do you have another line?
No.
Oh, sorry. Do you guys have any recommendations of other type of mystery movies that are similar to these that we might not get to?
I don't, because Shutter Island's the best of them.
Yeah.
I do recommend that people watch Unsane, though. I would say go watch it. It's pretty fun.
Every film. I don't think I've watched a lot more of like the ones where it's the theme is like whether or not the person's insane. But most of them look like trash. There was the one gaslighting movie, which Nick, do you remember what that was? Which is kind of like what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both
Which
these movies
should
involve-
also signal that like this is kind of a fundamentally gendered thing,
Yeah.
because gaslighting is. So yeah, whatever in the world that might be.
I mean, I recommend that people just like read the book. It's really
I
good.
want to.
And then I don't know. There's plenty of movies in Scorsese's category. Oh, I do think that people should go watch High Flying Bird. Especially if you're a fan of basketball, you should the NBA.
Don't point at me.
So I was just pointing in general. If you're a fan of the NBA, you should watch Steven Soderbergh's movie High Flying Bird on Netflix. It's a very quick watch. It's amazingly filmed. I can't believe it's on iPhones. And it's really interesting. It's an exciting, fast-paced story.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations of anything else? I don't really have a lot for Movie Minute.
No? Okay.
I do say. Oh, sorry. You were.
No, you go first. This should be the last.
This is going to be for the three of us. I think if anybody out there is worried about going to see Rise of Skywalker because they saw
Oh, yeah, we should talk
critical,
about that.
if they saw
Yeah,
critical
fuck
reviews that were
those
like
reviews.
56% and they read The Ringer, which I read, and they didn't like The Last Jedi, might we recommend going to see Rise of
Just go
Skywalker?
watch it.
Just do it. I mean, you're going to watch it anyways. It's one of the biggest movies.
All of the dumb stuff for me. All of the like little
limited.
kid stuff is out.
Yep.
Like it's all beautiful settings. Like the cinematography is gorgeous.
The Kylo Ren story
overwhelmingly-
goes.
Oh,
I think it ends.
I loved
perfectly.
it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Go watch it. It's great.
What about you?
Are you going to do pluggables after this?
Yeah, let's do pluggables.
Okay.
Social media.
So before we go to pluggables, I just want to say if there is anybody out there who has thoughts of hurting themselves or suicide, call 1-800-273-8255. That is a 24-hour hotline that you can talk to about things of that nature. If you are a veteran and someone that's dealing with PTSD, you can press 1 immediately after pressing that and talk to a veterans hotline specifically.
Good.
If you were a victim of stalking, you can call 1-866-689-HELP. If you are a domestic violence abuse victim, you can call 1-800-821-HOPE. All of those three things that I just named are 24-hour hotlines for anyone that is experiencing any of the difficulties experienced by people in Shutter Island or Unsane
Yep.
or in general,
Thank
the
you,
people
Nick.
that you know.
Yeah, Nick, thank you for putting that
Yep.
in.
Yeah.
That's
Call one of those numbers and talk to someone about your mental health. It's real.
Thank you. So just to wrap this up, we're going to be releasing our decade top 10s, Nick and I.
Ooh, yeah.
Jimmy, if you have yours, you should let us know.
I got to find the piece of paper.
It's just kind of
It's
just the movies that we've found to be essential
Yeah,
from
it'll
this
be
decade.
Essential for myself. if I
Right.
do.
It's all about yourself.
Yeah.
Next week, we will be having my friend Clay Susik on to talk about 2 action comedies. We're going to be doing Hot Fuzz, the Edgar Wright movie, and we're going to face it off against a stupid action comedy that didn't work because we love Hot Fuzz. So sorry to spoil that. Go watch that if you haven't already. It's amazing. I think it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
You can follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, instagram.com/facingoffpod. We are on Twitter, twitter.com/facingoffpod. I recommend that you follow it. Nick has been making some funny tweets. And we would just like some more people following us on Twitter. And then you can send us emails. We got amazing emails from Otto and Kevin Gathman. So please send us an email to facingoffpodcast@gmail.com, especially to give us what you rated these movies or any movie that we've done so far. Jimmy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, do you want anybody following you? Probably not.
No, don't follow me.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Go visit Jimmy at University of Virginia and check out one of his
come
classes.
down. There's stuff.
Can't.
Yeah.
You could.
Yeah, I guess you could sit in on the class. I think he'll be nice.
Yeah. I'm not
Jimmy,
going to give you my email or anything.
We would love to have you on more. I think we're going to figure out a way to do it over the computer.
Yeah, I would love
long
to.
distance, especially since you watch so many movies.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
you
we
guys.
should do that.
Yeah, this is a good way for. I loved experiencing these movies this way.
Yeah, I thought
It
this
was
was
a lot
really
of
fun time.
It's fun, right?
And we got a bit of an argument between me and Nick at one point. That was fun.
I wanted you
But
to.
well, I'll explain after.
We'll
Gabe-
throw down later.
Yeah.
Gabe jumped on
Do
the
you have
table.
do you have a send off? Do you have a send off, like a line that or something from one of the movies that you want to send off with?
No.
Nick.
Bye, Steve. Oh, bye, Steve's partner.
It's as if she evaporated straight through the walls.